What's up? So, as always, I have to make sure the sound is right. So, I have to go into this myself. See, should be live. It's not showing up. Let me see. Let me see. Yep. All right. Let me check. See. Should be live. Test. Let me see. Let me see. Yep. All right. The sound quality is good for that. I'm live. So that's what's up. So today's book is The Mythology and Religion of the Tainos. And it's by Sebastian Robiou Lamarche. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but that's the individual right there. Not sure if you can see the name or whatnot, but yeah, that's what he looks like. And this book was an editorial at, I guess, Punto y Como, which is in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And the reason why I got this book was because my wife is Puerto Rican, and she talked about the Tainos a lot. And because I want my kids to know who they are, not just on my side, but on her side of the family, I bought this book because it was highly recommended. And it helped me learn more about the mythology and religion of the Tainos, which is very interesting because I can tell you, I've just reading this found a lot of similarities between a lot of Egyptian and Sumerian myths, which is interesting because I always say when you look at the beginning of what they consider civilization, you will see that everywhere around the world was about that same time frame. Literally around 3000 BC is the happy medium for all of them, because some people will say some people that I've come to learn about was from academia side, they would say about 3200 BC for the Sumerians. Then some people would say 3100 BC for the Egyptians. Now, 100 years, knowing that the dating stuff is not accurate, how do you decide which one was 31 and 32? But my point is that when you look at that time frame around the whole world, 3000 BC, you will see a lot of places popping up that would had their own skill set for certain things, and that's why trading was important. But let's see. Okay, so the first tab that I tabbed up, because obviously I have a lot of tabs, and the first tab that I tabbed up is just the foreword. So I'll just read the first paragraph just to give you an idea what it just is talking about. It says, in 1992, I published the first edition of Encuentro con la Mythologia. I don't know how to say it correctly, but it's ENCUENTROCONLAMITOLOGIA. TAINA. And it's a book whose primary purpose was to present in both text and images a simple, orderly, synthesized version of Taino religious thought. Now, that's the reason why I tabbed it up, because I now that I remember, because I'm going back through this after this, I need to go and see if I can find that book, because that's the reason why I tapped it up. It's a book, so I wanted to get more visualized of what I see. The introduction, I'll read the first part. Myth is generally thought of as false, untrue. Now I'm going to say that again. Myth is generally thought of as false, untrue, which most people will say. But when you look up the definition of myth is it's just a traditional oral story. And then later on, it became, something false. So let's see. Okay, here we go. He says one of the definitions of the word given by Merriam-Webster is an unfounded or false notion. It is also, of course, defined and has in parentheses, and to our purposes more accurately, as a usually traditional story of ostensibly, I messed that up. I butchered that word. Historical events that serves to unfold part of the world view of a people who explain a practice, belief, or natural phenomenon. Now, I went and looked at the definition. I didn't get the same one. Maybe from when he wrote this book, there was one because they do change. But I get different. I got something differently, of course. Um, Matter of fact, while we here, let's just bring it up now and see what it says. Let's see. Where is this at? Oops. There we go. Okay, here we go. Let's see. I'm gonna tell you why I got it different. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna give you the one that he found on there. Let me type this in real quick so I can bring this up. Because I like to go to the origins. Here we go. There we go. So let me bring this up real quick. Let's see. Let me bring up what he got from Merriam Dictionary, which I can't deny on this part. So it does say right here, usually traditional story ostensibly historical events that serve to unfold part of the worldview of people or explain a practice, belief, or natural phenomena. And I'm glad that he picked that one because, of course, here's the other ones. And, of course, he brought up the part where it's mostly unfounded and stuff. But let me bring up the etymology. And this is why I said I got something different, because I like how he went to that one for his narrative, and I'll bring it up for a second. This is why I say it's important just to get the origins, because narratives can be created depending on which one you want to talk about. So 1830 from French mythi or mythi, 1818, and directly from modern Latin mythos from Greek mythos, speech, thought, word, discourse, conversation, story, saga, tale, myth. Well, I don't know why it says myth and then myth. Anything delivered by mouth, by word of mouth, a word of unknown origin. Now that's what I like the most right here. This is a happy median for me. Anything delivered by word of mouth, a word of unknown origin. And the reason why I say I like that one and I like to go to the origins of it, because using the one that he used, and I already closed it out, was here. I'll bring it right here, so I can make my point that it's the way narratives can change, and that's why there's always arguments with it. He says it is at the end of it when he identifies what he says a myth is according to Merriam Dictionary, which I'm glad he picked that one because most people use that one. Matter of fact, I got one right here. Let's see what it says in this book versus online. It's a little mini one that I have. Myth. Okay. Okay, here we go. It says legendary narrative that presents part of the beliefs of a people or explains a practice or natural phenomena. And then the number two is an imaginary or unverifiable person or thing. So yeah, so this one is actually, I like this one actually better. But anyway, for the second part at least, that's how the narrative can be created, because I just like this one just for the simple fact that you don't know if a myth is fact or fictional, right? Um, you just know that it was something that was told. And then a lot of times our myths are told from something that happened before the people who first recorded it, right? They were told the story that they found that they decided later on to start recording. So I just like that. That's why I said I got something different. And then you can go down here and it gives you this little different things like mythology, it's exposition of myths, the investigation and interpretation of myths. So that's what mythology means, right? Okay, the investigation and interpretation of myths, right? You're investigating anything that was delivered by mouth, right? Trying to interpret where the origins that it came from, like a detective, right? So that's why I like to just go to this when anybody says their definition or they say Merriam. Matter of fact, let's bring up another one. One of my other favorite ones is Myth, Oxford University. I don't know why I could never be able to go because I'm not smart enough to attend that, but I definitely go to them for a lot of sources. So let's see. Here we go. Let's bring it up. Hold on, let me bring this onto the other screen because I like to present what I've read. So that's why I understand different things, and that's why I can understand different narratives because it's easy as long. Is that it? Oh no, that's not it. Yeah, yeah, that's the one. All right, so it's right here to Oxford. The term myth is defined as a traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of people explaining some natural or social phenomena. So that's another reason why I got a different one because I went to different sources. Even the Merriam Dictionary, the one that I have on hand is just slightly shorter, right? Um, and it has another definition for number two, and he picked it. So that's why I said when he says, and this is why I pay attention to what people say, and this is just a point that I'm just trying to make because I love. I'm about to get to the good stuff in a second. I love it when people say, let's see, where is it at? Okay, one of the definitions of the word given by Merriam-Webster. See, one of them. So that means you're picking one of them for a narrative. For me, because at the end it says it is that definition that guides this study, right? He's using that definition for his narration or his narrative. Not saying that this is information is wrong or not. I'm just saying in general, that's how I think of things when I'll be like, okay, so why you pick this definition for this. So I got to pay attention to the other ones also, understand what the other ones mean, and see how it works together or if it can contradict itself. All right. So okay, so Yahya was more than a man, was a principle and origin superior essence. Yahya name is formed by the duplication of Ia, which in the Iowak, and I hope I said that correctly, Arawak language means spirit essence, first cause. Thus, Yahya was the supreme being, the most high spirit, the first cause. And it goes on to say he was a hermaphroditic being, both male and female, the origin of the universe. So basically, um, Yahya to the Tainos is their god, and I find that interesting because I uh, never heard of that or knew of that until when I researched it. Because, like I said, I've always been told in the past that there's always one God, but there's many different names for that God. And what's interesting, and I got to be careful of how much I share. There's actually a picture, the next page. I wish I could show it, but I can't because certain reasons. But there's a picture, and I'm going to describe where it looks like two people have a basket and they're fishing. Now, every guy that I know has some kind of relationship with, what you call it, fish. So just want to bring that up. Let's see. Next one. This one's actually going to be short because this is not a long book at all. This book is only like, let's see, in total, 140 pages, and that's going all the way to the back. Okay, so here we go. This is what's interesting. This is why I said I was going to get to good stuff. Reminiscent of the biblical flood, this passage makes clear that Yahya's gourd vessel was a magical crucible similar to the food-giving trees of other mythologies. From it, there springs the horizontal earthly water, the water that gives us lakes, rivers, and the sea. Okay, and then he goes on to say, on the astronomical plane, the death of Yael reminds one of the series of South American myths of a hero mutilated in a conflict with a parent. Wow, that's crazy. Now let me see where Yael is. If it was something that I passed up before, because or is it about to get into it? Because it's pretty interesting that. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Okay, I'll read this part. So this is going back to the part um, where I was describing who Yaya was. Uh, in the distant time, everything was going well until one day, Yayel, Yayel, son of Yaya, decided to kill his father. So Yaya, as a punishment, banished him for 4 moons. So that's probably full moons, maybe, possibly. So what? Maybe well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how they would how they how they considered their moons, their time frames. Maybe it'll tell me because it's different for everybody, of course. Let's see. Da, 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 da. And then so it just goes again. It goes okay. Oh, so when I remember when I was talking about the fish on the next page, because I didn't tap. I mean, I should have went through uh this whole side because there's a lot actually in here. But okay, so the mat. Okay, so eventually Yahya, who kills his son, and he places his remains in a gourd vessel, uh, made from the fruit of the calabash tree, Calabash. A lot of people, if you're familiar with that, that's very popular on that side of the world. So basically, what he saw was the bones of Yael had turned into a fish, large fish and small fish, which Yaya decided to eat, and he shared them with his wife. So maybe, yeah, just that's crazy. Let's go on to the next one. Let's go to the next one. While this is occurring, another woman was dying in childbirth. She was Idaba Kahubaba, bloody old mother, the architect of the childbearing mother earth of so many other mythologies, whose womb is open to take out 4 men, all from one woman and identical. 4 twins, a symbol perhaps of a duplicated duality. So these are just different. Let me see. Let me make sure. Okay, yeah. So this next part, let's see, let's go to the next one. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Because that whole I had that whole chapter, that first whole chapter is actually interesting. So like I say, every book that I do like this, I highly recommend buying because this has a lot of good information. I can only go through so much. Reminiscent of the biblical flood, this passage makes clear that Yahya already okay, I read that part. On the astronomical plane. Okay, yeah. So yeah. So that's when we went back to look at that. Okay. Okay, so Yael, uh, it says then that in turn is transformed into the constellation of Orion, whose shape idolizes a figure with an amputated leg and is related to the creation of fishes and the time of drought. It is very possible that the Tainos also visualize Yael in this constellation. Okay. Okay, so I highly recommend looking up more into Yael. Yeah, Yale. I'm not sure how to say that, but yeah, I would highly recommend looking into that. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a story. This is from a myth. I guess this is from some of their ancient texts. It says, the brothers looked at his back and saw that it was very swollen, and that swelling grew so great that Daminian, Deminan, I could be saying that wrong, was about to die. Then they tried to cut it, and they could not. And taking a stone axe, they opened it, and a live female turtle came out. And so they built their house and raised the turtle. Of this matter, I have not learned anything more, and I have little aid is this that I have written. It's pretty interesting. Somebody had a swollen back. They tried to cut it, couldn't get it. They went and got a stone axe, and then boom, a turtle done popped out. Turtles are very popular on that side. So in China too, actually, Tainos in China have a lot in common with turtles. The sun and moon, the heavenly bodies that were the basis for cyclical time, the foundation of the world, spatial creation had emerged from the cave they called Iguana Boyana, the cave of the black iguana serpent, the great Taino serpent. See, that's why, you know, every time I read anything that has to do with mythology or anything that has to do with um let's see, let me take this off. Uh Anything with like religion or anything like that, there's always a description, and part of that description is somebody being black. And then when people hear the great Taino serpent, it was a black iguana serpent, they'll be like, okay, well, why is it always about race? Well, when you read these ancient texts, it always brings it up. That's why it's interesting. I mean, there's a reason why he wrote it in there, right? So talking about it shouldn't be bad, right? So it's pretty interesting because the next tab here, I'm just gonna, it's not the next tab, it's the next paragraph because I'm gonna read it because I just found this interesting. It says, equivalent to the great serpent of continental myths, this significant supernatural being seems to be the Antillean adaptation of the South American imaginary of the caiman and anaconda. It seems to have been idolized in a large figure in the vault of the heavens composed of the constellations Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. Uh, okay, so it says one day, and I'm not going to be able to say it correctly, so I'm going to spell it first and then say it. Macocael. It's a name. Macocael, he of the eyes without eyelids. Think about that. He of the eyes without eyelids was distracted and was late returning to the cave. He was struck by the sun and turned into stone. Others of these beings went off fishing, and when due to carelessness or destiny, they were late returning, the sun turned them into hog, plum, or jobo trees. It's pretty interesting. Hold on for a second. I'm drinking my jaritos. Let's see. Um. Okay, so yeah, it just talks about the sun being a powerful uh, part of this culture. Um, yep, it has a, so this like I said, this whole book is interesting. I'm just giving you snippets of it because I only can do so much. This belief bears a striking resemblance to South American myths about the origin of the stars. In those myths, the hungry, noisy, crying children ascend slowly into the sky to become the Pleiades, a small but significant group of stars related to the beginning of the year and the rainy season. Now, this is interesting to me because Pleiades is always identified of when the seven sisters And I always tell people when you go on different sides of the world, Pleiades has something to do with different things. Now, let me read what it says again. The belief bears a striking resemblance to South American myths about the origin of the stars, right? In those myths, the hungry, noisy, crying children ascend slowly into the sky to become the Pleiades, a small but significant group of stars related to the beginning of the year and the rainy season. Now, what's interesting, and I've posted it before, and like I said, I don't go back and read these beforehand. This is all just coming natural. Now, when you go to the Popol Vuh and you look at how the Pleiades system was created there, it was created because one day there was two, what they call, and I'm gonna just call them boys for right now. There were two boys, different names for them, of course, were trying to chop down a tree and carry it back. Well, a giant happened to see them. The giant helped them take the tree to their location. Well, when the two boys went into their houses and they were sitting there getting to have a conversation for the day, they said that, hey, we got to get rid of this giant because he was that powerful to, do this. There's no telling what he could do to us because he's bigger and stronger than us. Basic, just as a basic story in my understanding, and you can just read about it. I'm not take the snippets of what I said and just Google research it yourself. This is from the Popol Vuh, and now, of course, since I haven't done the Popol Vuh book yet, I'll also be able to print it, and I'll be like, remember when I said that on the Taino religion mythology? This is what I was talking about. But anyway, so they had an idea of having this giant dig a big old hole, and when this giant dug the hole deep enough, they were to push the tree or a log over, and it's supposed to kill them. Well, while they was talking, the giant overheard them, of course. And he was like, I know they plan. So basically he stuck with the plan. He dug the hole and stuff like that. But before he dug it, before he told them that they was done, and yeah, I might be wrong, but it's highly unlikely, right? uh, uh, he dug a side hole. So he, when they dropped it down, he would be hit on the side and it would hit him, right? So that eventually happened. He dug the hole deep enough. And then he dug on the side and got out of it, got in there, and he yelled out, "Hey, I'm done." So eventually they pushed the thing over and it was supposed to drop down and kill him. And then they heard the thump. And then what he did was he took like pieces of his hair and nails and stuff like that and threw it out and stuff like, all around and stuff, bit fingers off and stuff like, not fingers off, but fingernail parts off and stuff like that, and just flicked them everywhere. And it was supposed to attract ants. So the ants would go down there and pick up these remnants, bring them back up. So that's when the boys, I say, were like, oh yeah, we killed them because identification of a dead body. Well, they went back in, and the reason why I say they're boys, but I put it this way because they went into their little hut, and what it says in the text in the Popol Vuh is that they were drinking. Now, I don't, I mean, I don't know how old they were. They call 16-year-old boy, so maybe they could have been that age and is drinking at a young age. Who knows? But basically, they were drinking, and the giant crawled out the hole and crushed the house. And when the house was crushed by the giant, the 400 boys, that's what they're called, 400 boys, ascended up and they became Pleiades. Now, I actually matter of fact, let me see, because I got time. And like I said, this is not a long one. So I always like to present my facts. Pleiades. All right, let me see. Hopefully it's not. Yep, here we go. Boom. Baby, baby. I don't never, ever, 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 ever keep 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 good information. I always like to present stuff. It's just, man, sometimes it just can get tiring presenting stuff because you're always trying to prove people's wrong. So, well, not wrong, but they need to do better research. So I posted this September 14th, 2023 on X Twitter. And can hear that. Let me turn it down. Let's see. Posted that in here. Okay. Right here. The youths who attempt to kill Zipakina, I can never remember the name, but are killed by him instead, eventually becoming the Pleiades. 600, that's from the book. Right here. You see it right here. Boom, 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 boom. They die while in a drunken stupor, just as the 400 rabbits of Naua mythology do. And like those rabbits, they were probably the patron deities of an alcoholic beverage. See, drink and drunkenness. And that's when it goes in there. But it has the whole story in there. But this was a snippet that I wanted to show that, boom, that's what it was talking about. That's what I said. Then I try to bring back to the table. It's from the Popol Vuh, right here. This version right here. Let's see. It should pop back up another one. I just want to make sure, you know. Let's see. I like making these. See? We was talking about that. I was talking about that to a couple of people. Planting maize, running from March to May, depending on altitude. See? That's what I do. Look right here. The Popol Vuh. That's what I was talking about. That's why I was like, oh man, the Tainos, Popol Vuh got the same. I know it's on, you know, same side of the world, basically, but it's just interesting knowing that I learned the Popol Vuh had the 400 boys, because that's what they called them, and rabbits, and you know, different. That's why I said different names for different things, and I just like to give a little history of what I was talking about. So yeah, this the mythology and religion of the Tainos is pretty good. So we're gonna keep it going. I can stop screen share that one. It is credible, therefore, that for the Tainos, the Pleiades had a close relationship with the rainy season and thus agriculture. Right. So, of course, you know, it would be interesting to know that every god has to do with some type of agriculture. Okay, so this is interesting. Unable to catch the four slippery creatures, they sought out four men who were caracoles, and it says caracoles, Caracoles, men with rough skin. But how were they to turn the creatures into women? If was the bird called Inriri, I'm gonna say that again. If was the bird called Inriri, formerly called Caillou Babayali, the woodpecker or carpenter bird who solved the problem. I don't know why I found that interesting. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, I guess because this next tab is why I did them together. This myth is an Antillean mixture of two documented South American myths: the descent of the celestial beings through trees to our plane, and the origin of a woman as a result of a woodpecker drilling at the trunk of a tree. Let me read that again. The myth is an Antillean mixture of two documented South American myths: the descent of celestial beings through trees to our plane, and the origin of woman as a result of a woodpecker drilling at the trunk of a tree. That's interesting. With the new creation of woman, the definitive Taino woman, the second mythical cycle comes to an end. This is a cycle represented by water from the sky, the Pleiades, and the frog. It is a time during which the sun rays created nature and humankind after those bad beings emerged in four stages from the cave of our origins from the cosmic womb. The creation was completed, then the supernatural being's greatest gift to humans. So I actually was just talking about this the other day. about how the sky is known as Pleiades, and uh, and wait a minute, I was just something. Let me mark that. I gotta mark this part. The part that talks about the bat beings emerged in four parts. Where's my thing at? There we go. Yeah, because that's actually interesting. I got to put an extra tab there so that way I can go back because I got. So what I do, this is perfect timing. So I buy these are 1,500 of these in here, and they're different ones. And these are the things that I actually put on on my books when I'm reading something that I found interesting. So I buy a lot of these. And what I'd like to do is when I go over doing these and something that I need to do or go back and research, I'll put another tab on there in a certain way. Where's it at right here? So any of them that sticks like this, that means I need to go back and research it, no matter what color it is, as long as it's sticking up like that, like straight up, then I know I need to go. And it has to be on that corner. So I need to go back and research this because that's actually, I didn't catch that before. If I did, I never went back and read it. So the next tab actually tells me that I need to read the whole page. And I can't do that, of course, because I got to follow their copyright. I can share what I've learned, but I can't read their stuff like it's mine or anything. So this whole page, I couldn't go through. But the next pages after that, it has a lot of pictures of the sun and moon, which is interesting because, like I always talk about, that's big on everything. So here we go. All right. So yeah. So they have. It just talks about the pre-Columbian evidence of syphilis. So I don't even need to go into that. I don't even know why that. I just see because let's go to the next tab. Okay, it says guanin was much more precious than gold. So let me see what that is real quick because I don't even know. I have no idea what guanin is. It's maybe see GU. Let me see where is that? GUANIN. GUANIN. What is it? What the hell? All right, let me this is strange. Let me screen share this. I ain't never seen this before. So yeah, so I typed. So this is what it. That hold on. There we go. Here we go. So that's what it would look like. Oh man, hold on. It didn't take the pictures. It didn't take the next one. So look, that's what it would be. I got that from here, of course, Wikipedia. I mean, is an alloy of copper, gold, and silver, similar to red gold used in pre-Columbian Central America. Pretty interesting, right? So this was more important than gold, but this this is why some things just don't make sense to me. It's more important than gold, but is an alloy of copper, gold, and silver, similar to red gold. Now, red gold, a lot of people like red gold. Let's click on that. Is this type of jewelry? A lot of so it's still gold. It's still gold. Because without gold, you can't have guanin or whatever the hell it's called. Like, see, that's why I say sometimes when I read books, I catch people and I be like, what's your narrative that you're creating? Because he says literally right here, Because of its distant origin, which in time came to be a region of myth, guanin was much more precious than gold. Okay, it has been said that the Tainos can distinguish it not only by its color but also its smell, which I'm pretty sure you probably could. But without gold, you can't have it. So it's not more precious than gold. Gold is needed. I mean, am I tripping? No, I'm not. I'm not tripping. I'm not tripping at all. But let me just continue. I still like the book. I'm not trying to say anything bad about it. I'm just saying that that just didn't make any sense. Tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if the item that you say is more precious than gold, but the item that you have um requires gold, then I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so basically it talks about with the passage of time, large plazas were built at a distant distance from the villages. They were rectangular, circular, or elliptical in shape, bounded by linear mounds of earth or lines of vertical stones. Um, Given all this, there can be no doubt that, among other purposes, these plazas had a calendric function. In fact, the annual cycle, the Taino year, was framed by the morning rise of the Pleiades in early June, in the same direction where days later the sun rose on the summer solstice. More for the Tainos, imaginary, the presence in the vault of the heavens of a certain star or constellation marked the season when the spirit of the heavenly body descended and impregnated the earth object or a phenomena of which it was the idealization. In short, the presence of the Pleiades was the cosmic cause behind the croaking of the frogs and the arrival of the season of rains. Now that's interesting. That's interesting. Agriculture, I always say that. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, despite this, let me go back and read. Let me see, because that's why did I mark that? Okay, so all right, so it gives you functions of, I guess, different individuals. So the main functions of the CACIQ, CACIQUE, as the maximum authority or supervision of harvesting and production, the equitable distribution of foodstuffs, and direction of religious ceremonies that kept the mythical past alive. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So let's just get so the next parts, the next tabs are, I would have to read the whole like four. Let's see, how many? One, two, three, four, five pages because it just talks about. Okay, so I'll just give you a snippet of it. So basically, it's a link between the supernatural world and the Taino society. The Kakiku then became an intermediary between the higher beings and his people, and in that social religious dynamic lay the essence of Kakiku's power. So basically, like, okay, instead of saying the Kakiku, CACIQUE, king then became the intermediary between the higher beings and his people. Um, some people could say king, some people could say the shaman then became an intermediary between the higher beings and his people. Just put your word there. So the similarities are there across the world. Um, Perhaps the descendants of older groups defeated by the Kakikus, the Naborias, Naborias, occupied an ambiguous social position because they were considered servants but not slaves. Although they were required to work. Now that's interesting because slaves hits a very important part. A lot of people think that The European slave trade is the same way that everybody had slaves in the past, that they were hanging and lynching people all day. No, that's not how everybody describes their slaves. Actually, in the Yoruba, in the Nigeria culture, if you became a slave of another family, you became that family. You were just somebody that had to work for that family, right? Like you're because they, I don't know how to really explain it, with you basically owing somebody a debt by putting it how we are in 2025 right now, where if you go get a credit card, you're a slave to that credit card because you have to pay that debt off. So the credit card company Chase and all these other people ain't gonna come and hang you and lynch you and shit like that, right? But back in the day, when you owed somebody something, it was different. A slave was differently everywhere. That's why when I hear people talk about I jumped into space and people were talking about the Japanese samurai that was a slave and that he was on dog chains and this and that. They don't even realize who were the people who were depicting that. Right? It wasn't the people who actually admired that individual. Um, and this is why it's important to actually read text. And I will actually go over it because I actually have a book on it. It's funny is that I'm not going to just jump on the bandwagon and jump on something because I don't care for it. I'm gonna get to it when I get to it. But it's just so funny that people repeat stuff without actually reading the text and understanding who the individuals who are depicting these type of things, right? Like if somebody was to be that, and many people are looking at what happened to American people in America right now, outside in, and how some people be like, that's crazy. But on the inside, you're like, hey, sometimes some things is needed, right? But my point is that he brought the word in here, slave. So now, because I know that, and knowledge is power, and I have the understanding of knowing that not everywhere you go, a slave is the same. Just because I know what the European slave trade brought, the transatlantic slave trade brought, and happened to Africans, doesn't mean that that's how slavery is all the way around. Now, yes, in Africa now today, there are slaves that are getting killed like that. Yes, slavery is big all around the world. But in the early days, before the colonizations and certain stuff like that, like I said, the Yoruba, in Nigeria, their slaves were nothing more than somebody who had to work for the family. Basically, they still got treated. They were part of the family. It's just like being part, like, how can I say, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law, and brother-in-law. Yeah, you family, but you ain't blood family. And there's a difference, right? And sometimes that is known in most cases when something happens, right? Yeah, this is my family. Yeah, you family, but this is blood. You know what I mean? So you take that with a grain of salt. I try to explain that the best way I can, but that's in simple terms. Um, it's interesting that you can talk about mythology, and some of the things that you're always going to talk about is race and slavery, because there's a lot of things that some people want to try to get off their chest that they don't understand, and they only know a certain part of history, which that's why I say knowledge is power, because if you know every side of the story, you can understand everybody's point of view. Now you take everybody's point of view, you combine it and say, well, hey, did you know this? The person that might be misunderstanding, you can explain to the person that's misunderstanding, well, hey, according to this, they didn't mean it like this. They meant it like that. So you can't take offense to it. Yes, you can in certain ways if you want to. And I'll give you a perfect example. Um, I don't want to say, because sometimes some people will get offended by it, but oh man, it's a very Faggot. I hope I got people. It's different in different worlds. You say that word, somebody might hear it, they can interpret it differently, and it means something different. And I use that word for a reason, because um, it's like slavery. If you use the word slavery and you're not knowledgeable on the idea of um, how slavery was across different cultures, you're only going to, and you look at it from the transatlantic slave trade, then you're going to think that all these other cultures did the same thing. I try to, I'm gonna just pass back, because that's getting a little bit too much past this, and plus I'm almost done with this anyway. But the point is that race, slavery, and certain things will always be discussed, and until we can understand what the meaning and how these individuals uh, use these terminologies, we we can go from there. Let's see. Uh, let's see. Okay, I don't need to read all that. Okay, despite this, the Behe maintained an important place in the Taino society for two reasons: because he was linked to the world of the spirits through his skills at healing the sick, and because of his relationship with the origin of the images of the semis. For these reasons, the Behik, the first shaman known of by the Spaniards in the Americas, would be considered simultaneously physicians, priest, theologian, prophet, seer, and herbalist. So yeah, I was just talking about that. So let's go to the last tab. Okay, and this actually falls under the glossary. Interesting. It's Boyan, Boinayel, sons of the black serpent, god of rain, along with his twin Marohu, Marohu. He was venerated in the cave of Iguana Boina, the great serpent mother of two. Together they formed the Trinity. They governed the balance of the weather, a benevolent manifestation of Adabai, linked to the moon and to the beneficial rain, which came when the Siemens, I don't know, hands were united. It's spelled Cemies. Um, that's interesting because look, together they formed the Trinity. So it says the great serpent, mother of the two. Together they formed the Trinity. Now, what's interesting about that, when you go to the Popol Vuh, there's a story in there. I can't remember the individuals' names, but I believe they were twins, and they lived with their grandmother. And their father passed away by playing the version a ball game of theirs down there. I can't remember what the ball game is off the top of my head, but he played it in the underworld, and he lost, and then he could never leave. But it's interesting because the same twins, they went to play the same game also. But and I'll talk about it in the Popol Vuh in the future. I'll get into it um in the future. If I haven't already, I have to go check the list. I'm going through actually this whole series about different books that I do. So all I do is just come through these books and read from what I've learned, because I feel like I talk about a lot of this stuff already when I'm in spaces that I try to present. Hey, this is what I've learned, and this is where I learned it from. But anyway, there's the twins. They put maize in the middle of their hut, house, or whatever you want to call it, and if it was to die, that means the boys, when they went to the underworld to play the same game their father did, that they died. And if it as long as it was growing, they were alive, and she was not to worry about them. Now, the reason why I say this is interesting, and I found probably marked this, was because of the Trinity. Uh, Three, it's always three things that has to do with sustaining life in something, right? This one right here, Boyan Boinayel in the Popol Vuh with the twins, and then you got the Trinity in the Holy Bible, right? And then you got Trinities all the way around the world. So yeah, this book's right here. I highly recommend it. The Mythology and Religion of the Tainos. That's an interesting book. Of course, before I close out, I'm gonna have to do two things. I gotta play my homies Lil Vibes song, which I already have the one that I'm gonna play for today. But let's see, before that, let me figure out which book I'm gonna do next. I didn't check the whole time to see if my audio was good, but I'm pretty sure Vibe would have told me. Be like, yo, your audio cut out. Let's see. Next book is going to be, dang, how many books? Damn, I'm already at 30. Dang, I couldn't have done 30 books already. Okay, yeah. So the next book is actually the next book will be with Gnosis Through the Ages by Nathan Wilson. So I actually am going to hit up this individual and see if he would like to do the next live discussion with me on his book. Yeah, so the next one might be with him. Oh, and then check this out. This is interesting. After that, it's the Popo Fu. So, hey, if you watch this today or in the next week or two, you're going to definitely have refreshed memory. Because what I'll probably do is I'll probably, since it's refreshed in mind, I'll go grab this and say, hey, remember when I talked about it in this? And then boom. So let's see. Gnosis Through the Ages. So yeah, I'm gonna hit him up and see if he'll do this with me. But little vibe right here. I actually, so I'm starting a daily support thing, because everybody always talks about, hey, how do we support each other? And people don't says my screen, click screen, blah blah blah. All right, cool, whatever. It says everybody says they want to support each other, and the only way they support each other is by money, right? Like, or not by money, by if somebody's giving somebody money. There's so many people. I'm gonna just say this. Everybody says support, 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 support. I support everybody, no matter what it is. Even if I disagree with you or I don't like you, whatever information you have that helped me on my journey, I'm going to support you for that, because you helped me. And you'll see it, because today I started off with a support day, my daily support for Lil Vibe. He's a music artist and a scholar. He reads a lot. He's a family man, and he makes music. Now, a lot of his music is hip hop style, but he does different styles. But he takes a lot of what he's read and he puts it into music. Now, this is good for anybody who likes music but doesn't likes hip hop or rap or some kind of melody music, that enjoys education in there, gives you that, the 80s and 90s vibe with a little bit of, the 2020s style, right? So it's interesting that he put it together, because I'm 41 years old and I love hip hop and rap, but I don't like the new stuff. But this actually I can ride down the street to and enjoy. I don't have to play the same 90s, 2000s, 80s music that I usually play. And like I said, a lot of people say support each other, blah 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 blah, but it only requires money. Now, I've wrote a book, and there's a handful of people that bought my book, and I'm thankful for everybody that bought it. But I don't expect people to support me by buying my book. I'll be honest with you. Support me by just going to my website. And if you really want to support me, buy my book. If you really, really, really want to support me to make sure I get all the proceeds, send me the $25 that you was going to buy for my book and just send it to me through Buy Me a Coffee or whatever, right? Support is support. I do it because I feel like, you know, if you really enjoy somebody's work, you're going to support them. And if you get something from it, then why not? I mean, people always talking about, helping each other out. Just share it. That's all. That's the easiest thing. You might not even have to like it. Look, so basically, go to Spotify if you have Spotify. If you don't like hip hop, it doesn't take nothing to subscribe. If you like somebody, you'll support them, right? You don't have to go there and necessarily shop at a store that doesn't have anything to do for you, right? But you'll tell other people, hey, I know a store that you might like. I don't really use the products. And if they ask you why you don't use the products, you can be honest. Well, I just don't use them. I don't need them, you know? But it's just about being honest. You could say, hey, Lil Vibe, I like his music. or I like that he's an artist. I support him. But I don't like the type of music. But if you like hip hop, then you might like it. So here's some music. So I'm gonna play this, and then I'm gonna close it out. Um, Always support somebody, man. So the next one, I'm gonna do somebody every single day that I support, whether I like them or not. So I'm gonna put in there for the ones who blocked me. I'm gonna put on there, yo, if anybody doesn't, if they give it to them, let them know. Look, I still support you, even though you blocked me. I mean, you should block me. You don't want me to step on your toes and show you how wrong you are sometimes in your information by just getting to the facts. So yeah, we're gonna play a little vibe. We're gonna play East 144, and then we're gonna close it out. Like I said, the next book is gonna be I'm gonna try to get Nathan Wilson on and see if we can do a discussion about his book. And then I'm gonna do the next one is the Popo Vu. So let's get this party started. Yo, vibe.
Yeah, hey,
Oh.
hey, bounce, bounce, yo, ask, what up, come on, okay, I-44, eastbound, I was down and out, yeah, had to take a different route, then I made it out, 44, eastbound, I was down and out, had to take a different route, then I made it out, 44, eastbound, I was down and out, had to take a different route, then I made it out, 44, eastbound, I was down and out, had to take a different route, then I made it out, 44, eastbound, I was down and out, had to look up in the mirror, man, and change the style, hoodie hoo, howling at the moon like what it do, I got that head with me, yeah, you know that white out too, Harry Potter, pen is long and better, I got the conjure, philosophizing by the stone and how the fuck these commas, Rudy digits like numerologic, color atomic, we ballin' in the outer orbit, astrologic, throw it back and you could bet I watch it, in the tropics like it's cancer and my time is marching, never stopping, giving up that shit just not an option, hit my whip, you know I pack it out with all the options fully loaded, keep a cannon in the boat and blow it, really stoic, meditating like a poet, real devoted, passion like it's Christ, I'm goaded, spit a homie, hidden symbols in the poses, martial artist, hidden power in the poses, feel like Moses, hard to see and free my homies, you jabroni, like the rock, I keep it on me, hit the bottom, now it's to the top, I'm going, he's from the sis, bitch, I'm the shit, I'm hitting lists, I'm getting rich, I'm bring my people up the ship, you busy talking all that shit, whoa, I ain't with it, been my corner, then I spin it like a fidget, remember when my bread was low and now I'm pop out with the spinach, yeah, for the chicken, how I'm whipping up this franchise, running through the game, look me in my damn eyes, back it up, then drop it low and let it hang glide, I remember days when all my clothes was haze ride, now it's feeling like I'm living in a strange time, horror style, goosebumps coming through your aura, got the game in the arm like it was Gamora, more of this and more of that, I'ma kick these fucking raps like a gun gently, a lethal weapon with the straps, get unleashed on the beat, and I'm fearless with the raps like the mummies, and the time I keep it thumping, and a Hummer with big old thumpers and Thumbelina, I spit the meanest, you made me think it was in the genus, I stroke my ego and all of a sudden I stack the Cheetos, sprinkle Doritos and stones is looking like Elamino, I'm rolling papers like Wiz Khalifa, I got my green up just like Serena and Penn and Venus, really wet from the muddy waters and Aquafina, the fountain Trevi is 9/11, I'm waving heavy and breaking levees just like the Nola, remember watching like Common, they left him on the corner, the karma coming, I pray forgiveness and move like Noah, I stay devoted and spit the quotas while hitting quotas, I build a temple like real medieval, I play medieval, I always had lots of passion and now I got the people, I'm real coherent and educated and integrated, all I'm waiting is on my moment and I'ma take it, it's what I'm doing, it's where I've been, it's where I'm going, my vision clear just like the Epis, I'm really soaring, placing that with the ghost of pops, you know I'm pouring, alcohol on the fire like Sodom and Gomorrah, more of this and more of that, I'ma kick these fucking raps, like a young Jet Li, a lethal weapon with the straps, get unleashed on the beat, and I'm fearless with the raps like the mummies, and the time I keep it thumping, and a Hummer with big old thumpers and Umbrina. Misdemeanors, you made me think it was indigenous. I stroked my ego and all of a sudden I stacked the Cheetos. Sprinkled Doritos and stones is looking like Alamito. Yeah, eastbound, I was down and out. Whoa, had to take a different route, then I made it out 44. Eastbound, I was down and out. Had to take a different route, then I made it out 44. Eastbound, I was down and out. Yeah, had to take a different route, then I made it out 44. Eastbound, I was had to take a different route, then I made it out. Yeah.